Rajdeep, starting off with you, the Prime Minister uses the word, the phrase "Mili Juli Sarkar" 3 times in that answer when speaking about, how he sees the move ahead for 2024. He also talks about how Modi ki guarantee is about trust from the poor. How do you assess the answers to those first 3 questions? The politics subheading, Rajdeep.
Shiv, I think the Prime Minister is setting the template for the 2024 elections, much as he did in 2019. He is a nationalist, populist leader, a larger-than-life figure, and he is contrasting what he believes is his leadership and stability versus what he sees as chaos and instability brought in by coalition government. So he's setting that template as his core narrative. Vote for me because I provide stable leadership. Don't vote for the others because they will provide you uncertain, chaotic leadership. That's where the word Mili Juli Sarkar comes in. From 1990 to 2014, Shiv, for 25 years, India did have coalition governments. And I think the Prime Minister is trying to contrast the last 9, now 10 years with the kind of governments you had over those 25 years, where there was an element of uncertainty. Will Manmohan Singh's government complete 5 years was a question that was often asked, particularly between 2004 and 9, and you had governments falling between 96 and 99. You had 3 different governments. So the Prime Minister is contrasting stability with chaos on the other side. The Modi ki guarantee is more interesting because he's almost invoking identifying his personality with the popular will of the people, and almost referring to himself in the third person. Ye Modi ki guarantee hai. That Prime Minister Modi, coming from a poor background, now rising to the top job, understands what it means to come out of poverty, and thereby understands the hopes and aspirations of the people. So he's tapping into his personal sense of belief, his self-belief, and trying to convey to the people of the country that, look, as long as I am there, you're secure. So it is really completely conflating his personality with the will of the people. And that's been his politics as a nationalist populist leader. And he, since it's worked twice before, but in 2014 and 19, he hopes to complete a hat-trick. The interview comes across, if I may say so in conclusion, as someone who's almost very, very self-confident. I wouldn't say overconfident, but someone who's self-confident that 2024, in his view, is almost a done deal.
Okay, very interesting how the Prime Minister says don't look for a dictionary meaning of guarantee. It's about the trust from the poor. And he says that a couple of times to reinforce that notion. Ashok Malik, partner with the Asia Group, is also with us. Ashok, welcome. We'll be going to our other guests as well in just a moment. Your reading of the Prime Minister's fleshing out of this Modi ki guarantee slogan going into 2024, Ashok, where he says, this kind of a guarantee can only really come from someone who's risen from the ground up.
So if you read the interview, which I've read in detail, it's a very good interview, he talks about listening to policy specialists and civil servants and advisors, but also mixing their advice with his own bottom-up experience as a political activist, as a political worker, as somebody who's been in public life and traveled across the country in various roles for 50 or 60 years now. And it's that magic of that chemistry that actually drives his policy making. That's what he attributes it to. Now, this is a gift. This is a gift that is rare. And that is really the key to the guarantee. He talks about it being a commitment and a trust to his voter. But he's not asking voters to just vote for him because he's nationalist or populist or identifies with the nation. He's asking people to vote for him because of the strength of his achievements over the past 10 years. And he talks about that in detail. The most telling number is the inflation number between the 10 years of the UPA government and the 10 years of the NDA government. The inflation number is 5.1% for the NDA government, which is half of what it was for the UPA government. And both governments faced international challenges and commodity price challenges. And yet, this government has managed inflation better. And he's obviously proud of that. He also talked.
Ashok, we've lost your audio. I'll just try and patch that back in. But, Yeah, Ashok, I think we have you back. Can you finish your point?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he also talks about the risk of a coalition government, the risk of a Milli Julie Sarkar, where the Prime Minister's writ does not run even to his ministers.
Yeah.
So when he talks about his strong personality and his absolute clarity, it's not just because he's talking up himself. It's also because in a time of such upheaval at home, upheaval internationally, upheaval in the economy, upheaval in geopolitics, you need a strong leader.
Very, very interesting.
That's what he offers himself.
Absolutely. And, if you read this entire interview, and over the next few minutes, I'm going to be reading the rest of the interview out to all of our viewers, I can tell you that there is a sense, and I agree with Ashok, that, not a word is wasted. Each and every word is weighed to carry a certain amount of significance beyond, what's just there in that sentence. Now, let me go to part 2, and I'll bring in all our other guests. Siddharth Zarabi, Sanjay Jha, and others will also be joining us. They're both with us. We're getting more people. Raj Chengappa also, who was part of this interview panel, will be with us as well live. Now let's go to the second, part 2 of what the Prime Minister said in this interview to India Today. We asked him, how is the BJP different from these so-called Parivarvadi parties? The reason why this question was asked is because the Prime Minister was asked about how there is this trend of changing leaders every now and then. And the Prime Minister, interestingly, took his own example to say that the BJP is not like these Parivarvadi parties. Answering the question, here's what the Prime Minister said in the interview, and I quote, "Parivarvadi parties find this democratic churn difficult. The BJP has the ability to nurture multiple generations of leadership at the same time. Look at the presidents of the BJP and you will see fresh faces every few years. Ours is a cadre-based party driven by a clear mission. We all began as grassroots workers and rose through the ranks on the back of dedication and hard work. This commitment is why the nation, especially the youth, feels a strong connection with the BJP. In a democracy, it is essential to provide opportunities to new generations and new blood. This democratic churn is what makes democracies vibrant. This churn is also what makes our party vibrant and keeps aspirations and hopes burning within our Karyakartas. They feel that they too can rise in the party through their hard work. Our party is used to doing different experiments. In Gujarat, we opted for all fresh faces in ministries. In Delhi, we opted for all fresh faces in local corporation elections." Unquote. Raj Chengappa, Group Editorial Director for Publishing, who conducted this interview, along with Arun Puri and Kali Puri, is also live with us. Raj, welcome to our coverage, and I'll be going to our other guests for a word on this as well. It's interesting, Raj, how the Parivarvad word was used by the Prime Minister in response to your question about the trend of, constantly changing faces, new faces. In the recent Heartland elections, that was also, one of the things that was there. And the Prime Minister, very interestingly, took his own example. He said, look at what happened in 2001, 2002 in Gujarat. There as well, here, I was made the Chief Minister without any prior administrative experience. So this has been a legacy of the BJP. And the Prime Minister himself, Raj, brings in the word Parivarvad, and that, leads to the next question you asked. Very interesting.
Shiv, I think what he's done in some senses in this interview is laid the grounds for the battle for 2024.
Yeah.
It's very clear. And he told us it's performance, which means his performance, versus Parivarvad. I mean, that was the words he used. And then went on to talk about how Milli Julie, he wasn't directly referring to the India alliance, he's very careful about that, but in general talked about these 30 years of instability that for what he calls these Milli Julie parties had done. And then talks of the fact that the nation is looking for stability and growth, and he is the person that was going to do it. But I think what's very interesting about this interview, Shiv, if I may add, is that what he does in this interview is, I've talked to him earlier, and so has Arun and Kali, and also, when he was just 1 year in the business as Prime Minister. And what the difference I found was that he was willing to talk about how his mind works, how he takes decisions.
Yes.